So in this section, we're going to be talking about Copilot in Microsoft PowerPoint. Copilot in PowerPoint is going to help you get over the blank slide starting point. You can actually go in and start generating a presentation based off of an existing document. So for example, if you have a proposal that you've already drawn up, the Copilot application is going to be able to go ahead and start building out a PowerPoint presentation for you, including a number of different slides, content within those slides based off of the document that it's pulling in from. But it's also going to try to intelligently add a theme to that, as well as visualizations to support that. Now, this is the starting point. This is to show you the art of what is possible. You don't have to leave it in the form that it actually gives it to you. Um, but taking that deck and having 8 or 10 slides to start from gets you over that initial barrier, and then it's just a matter of let's clean it up and polish it. Let's add in the information that we want, and then start to visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we both know that when we are deeply invested in the world of PowerPoint, we want a whole lot of control over everything from the theme to the visualizations to the fonts to the way that that information is presented to the storytelling aspect of that. They try to implement some of that based off of all of the research and all of the telemetry that the PowerPoint engineering teams have. So this is that starting point, but it is possible to do more. So when you're in here, you're going to be able to use the Copilot panel to do things like add an additional slide. And not only can you tell it to add a slide, but you can tell it to go ahead and populate it with content. Add a slide about this specific topic and go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and drop that into my presentation. Or this slide is too wordy. Can you make it less wordy? Can you make it unlike Andy and get to the point? Can you insert this image or replace this image with another image? Can you copy the style from a previous presentation and go ahead and add that? And one other thing I want to point out on this particular part of the video as well, it will populate your notes. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
as it's building it. And I think that's really helpful, especially if you deliver presentations and you use the notes feed inside of there. So not only will it build that or that presentation and get you started, but it will
Mm-hmm.
also populate the notes as well for the speakers. So those things are really really cool. Now, John, what's your experience like as you've been working with
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoint and generating some content there?
Yeah, so for me, I think what a lot of people are going to really like about Copilot in PowerPoint is this initial area. I don't think it's going to make all of us lazy slide designers because from what I've seen, I think a lot of people are going to get the output and be like, maybe I'll tweak this or tweak that, or maybe it's not quite the image that I was looking for, or something like that. Because you have in your mind the story that you want to tell, right? And I think it's going to take some repetitions and some expertise, experience to get what is in your mind, the story you want to tell, into a prompt that gets you what you want. I think this is where prompt engineering is going to be one of those like mastery level skills whenever you come to PowerPoint. But I think the immediate benefit is starting with a blank slide deck and saying, hey, Copilot, I need to give a talk about this subject. And I want to make sure that I hit these points, but I don't really know like the flow of what I want to do. Copilot, I think, is going to really help with giving you the structure of what your talk should be about. You know, if you kind of don't know where to start, I usually start out with an outline, and that's probably what takes the most amount of time, in my opinion, to create a presentation is what do I want to talk about and what order do I want to talk about it? And Copilot, what I've seen is that it helps kind of like fast track that ordering of things for me to where I may just make small tweaks, but generally kind of accept like, oh, I like that flow. Then I go slide by slide and make it, you know, my story, my vision, my visuals, things like that. So Daryl has a question here that's, is it going to respect the corporate template? At least right now, from what I've seen, no. It uses those PowerPoint designer type of templates where it's going to say, hey, here's some what designer says is beneficial for you. And hopefully we'll be able to, get a little bit more like, I have an organizational asset library. I want to use these pictures. I want to use those. Right now, no, it's about what you get from PowerPoint Designer. I don't know, Andy, if you know more about the public roadmap and where they're headed with that. My organization, we don't have the org asset library set up yet, so we haven't been able to experience that if it's possible.
Yeah, I don't have any more information on organizational templates and look and feel to add to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to point out though, as kind of on this same lines, big picture.
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to do? So you can create a new presentation, as we see here. It does try to build it and use the designer tool to give it a certain look and feel. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I think is really cool is in the side panel over there. It can summarize the entire thing. So like we
Mm-hmm.
talked about it from, hey, here's an outline or a proposal that I had over here as a Word document. Generate a presentation, but it can also go the other way. You can go in and say, summarize this presentation and
Mm-hmm.
give me, bullet points around these 30 slides that are in it. And I think that's actually really, really helpful, especially for like larger decks or like
Yeah.
I'm going back to review something later. That could be an outline that maybe I turn into a blog post, or maybe I turn into a proposal, or maybe I turn into a longer form document. But it can also help you to
Mm-hmm.
organize the presentation. You can have it to organize and reorganize and move the slides around, and then you can go back and you can polish it by having it use designer, create some themes, help you with
Mm-hmm.
some images, change some images around, um, and work with it. What I like to see is to be able to go in and use things like um, Bing Chat and the Dolly 3 integration and have it generate images and put those in the body of the presentation. I think that would be a really cool feature, and I'd like to be able to do that in the future. So that would be really cool to see something like that. But from the content generation piece, and to go back to
Mm-hmm.
Daryl's question, I don't have any specific information around whether organizational templates are going to be respected. I think they would, but that might be
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to be a little bit further down the road.
Yeah. Pete mentioned also the new brand center that's been talked about that might have an impact too. That might be something that aligns more with like they kind of intersect at the same time. So it may leverage that a little bit more than kind of the way
Mhm.
it's been done traditionally. I don't know. I don't have insight into that yet. I suspect that we're going to see some announcements coming out over the coming months about some of these things that answer some of those questions, like Daryl mentioned, like, yeah, but can I do this or can I do that specific thing? I bet we're going to see a lot of kind of follow-on announcements that might address some of those things. I really like this idea from Daryl that was, imagine the coach, the presentation coach, like imagine that not only giving you scores and what things like your pace and filler words and stuff like that, but what if it knows the content enough that it can also give you tips about what you missed or what you spent too much time on, something like that. I haven't heard anything at all about how the coach might get better, but I'm just throwing that out into the universe. If somebody from Microsoft ever sees that, more AI powered coaching, that's a really cool idea from Daryl here about,
Hey, that's
adding notes and stuff like that would be really cool output to kind of like make your presentation better rather than just scoring you on your delivery.
we heard it here first, folks. Copilot coach. Daryl was the one that threw that idea out
Yeah,
there.
million
I too
dollar
think that
idea.
that would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
As far as from a service description uh, standpoint, you can transform written documents into the decks, and as we saw, speaker notes and sources. That's all really, really helpful.
Hmm.
I do want to expand on that a little bit, though. We'll talk more about this in a bit, but like we were in Word a little while ago, and we talked about referencing other files. One of the things that I've done in Word that's been really fun is to reference other files and say, "Hey, take um, this business summary that I'm working on, and take this pitch deck that I created and combine that into a single document." So um, uh, the fourth coffee shop deck that Microsoft has out there. It's just a template. I took that and combined it with a generic business plan, and it took those two things and built out a business plan and a reference fourth coffee within it. So if you've got a pitch deck, you can
Hmm.
kind of use it going in the other direction. And I just thought that was really cool. We saw it here from Word coming into PowerPoint, but it can also go the other way, which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
We saw you can create a new presentation from a prompt or outline. You can condense presentations. That's really neat. You kind of have to experiment with that a little bit. And then not only with condensing presentations, I do want to expand on that. You can have it get rid of some of the wordiness within a specific slide. You can use it to condense that, turn it into a series of bullet points that's a little bit easier to read. Now, is that going to be like PowerPoint story best practice? Probably not. It still needs that person to be able to parse through that. But it can condense down wordy slides, and it can make it something that's more approachable for the users. And then using the natural language commands to adjust the layouts, reformat the text, and then work with things like animations. I haven't seen the time animations. I experimented with that a little bit, and I didn't get any kind of results with that. It told me that it wasn't possible to work with like animations. So maybe the timing's something I need to go and play around with. But I did
Hmm.
like being able to use natural language. I've heard it's been said that users only use a small percentage of the total number of features that are actually built into PowerPoint. There's hundreds of features there, and most end users only use a few of them. And even as I would consider myself a PowerPoint power user. I use the mess out of it, and I try to
Hmm.
do some really cool things with it. I think beyond really what it was designed for. Sometimes I don't know where the menu is to find that command. It's buried down deep somewhere. And so being able to just go to Copilot and say, hey, I'm trying to do this and have it work with me, that's going to save a whole lot of time. And I think it's also going to help a lot of users to approach PowerPoint and do some more advanced things.
Hmm. Yeah. Another thing to not, skip over as well is this isn't listed in here yet, but just that summarization as well. The service description kind of focuses a lot uh, on like creating
Hmm.
stuff. But if you get sent a slide deck that is just like 100 slides, you don't know what to do with it, make sense of it. You can ask questions of your slide decks, and you can,
Yeah.
say, what is this about? What are the key themes? What do I need to do about it? Why should I care? Those types of things. Copilot is great about that for things that are sent to you. So again, kind of that, am I creating or am I consuming? Think of those kind of two C words whenever you're dealing with Copilot.